Live in high definition from the area's most experienced news team, this is NBC 29 HD News at 6.
Last night we happened to be sitting here and we heard some gunshots from through the woods. It was multiple shots.
It was a long night for people who live in a Fluvanna County neighborhood after a shooting that led to a suspect's standoff with police. And tonight we are learning new details about the man arrested at the end of that standoff. Fluvanna County Sheriff's investigators just wrapped up a press conference in Palmyra minutes ago. 45-year-old Joe Roach Jr. right there is charged with malicious discharging of a firearm, possession of a firearm by a convicted felon, and assault on a law enforcement officer. Investigators say Roach shot into a home on Hardware Hills Circle just before 8 o'clock Saturday night. That started everything. A woman inside that home was hurt. When deputies responded to the scene, they say Roach barricaded himself into his home. And tonight we learned from investigators that a juvenile was also inside that home. Police safely removed Roach from the house around 1 o'clock this morning. No one else is injured. And neighbors who watched all of this unfold overnight tell NBC 29 this is not the first time Roach has caused commotion in their community. NBC 29's Taylor Gleason is live in the newsroom with that part of the story. Good evening, Taylor.
Well, Roach is a convicted felon that was not supposed to have a gun last night. Neighbors say he's caused plenty of trouble in the past up to Saturday night's incident, and they've had enough.
This is a tight-knit community right here where we're at. Everybody's friends.
The quiet neighborhood of Hardware Hills Circle got a bit of a surprise Saturday night when they first heard gunshots.
We sitting here and we heard some gunshots from through the woods. It was multiple shots.
Investigators say 45-year-old Joe Roach fired several gunshots into a home next door, injuring a woman inside and frightening neighbors. Charles Riddle called police.
Police showed up and it was helicopters and all kinds of things out here. It was kind of crazy for a little while.
Police, SWAT teams, all that, ambulance.
Roach barricaded himself inside his home for several hours. He was arrested after working with negotiators. Montica Riddle has lived on Hardware Hills Circle for years and says Roach's outburst isn't completely unexpected.
Not very shocked, honestly. It was something that, has been going on for a while with that person, so it wasn't something that was a complete shock.
Neighbors say police have been called to Roach's home on multiple occasions for gun-related problems.
This is an ongoing thing. It has happened a couple of times out here.
Scared sometimes, because you really don't know what that person can do. He's unstable as it is, obviously he came out the house shooting. That's scary.
With Roach in custody for the time being, neighbors hope he stays locked up.
Just for the safety of everything, I really prefer him not to be back.
Just held without bond at the Central Virginia Regional Jail tonight. His bail hearing is scheduled for tomorrow.
Taylor Gleason live in our Charlottesville newsroom with the details for us. Thank you, Taylor. 4 people are recovering after they were shot during College Beach weekend at Virginia Beach. Police responded to a report of shots fired on 18th Street near the boardwalk just before 11 o'clock last night. All 4 victims are expected to survive. Police are still investigating and no arrests have been made. Meanwhile, police say another person showed up at a local hospital claiming they were stabbed in a separate incident on the ocean front, also Saturday night. Tonight, state police are asking for the public's help to find a driver who ran off from a crash with an Amherst County Sheriff's deputy. It happened around 1 o'clock this morning on Route 29. Police say the driver of a black 2003 Dodge Stratus pulled out in front of a sheriff's deputy who was responding to an emergency call. The impact forced that Dodge to spin around, and the deputy's vehicle right there ran off the road, hit that utility pole, and then flipped over. 3 people in the Dodge ran from the scene. The 27-year-old deputy is recovering from minor injuries. President Trump has marked his 101st day in office with a trip to his Virginia Golf Club after a celebratory speech Saturday night touting his first 100 days. The president also made clear he will not allow North Korea to continue growing its nuclear capabilities. NBC's Jennifer Johnson reports from Washington.
A trip to his Virginia golf course for President Trump after a celebratory speech Saturday night marking his 100th day in office.
We are keeping one promise after another.
The president chose the rally over attending the annual White House Correspondents' Dinner. On Sunday, Mr. Trump vowed to stop North Korea President Kim Jong-un's nuclear buildup while recognizing his ability to stay in power.
People are saying, is he sane? I have no idea. Obviously, he's a pretty smart cookie, but we have a situation that we just cannot let what's been going on for a long period of years continue.
Despite setbacks getting legislation passed, the president says he loves his job, and his team says a health care bill will pass.
Repealing and replacing Obamacare is just around the corner because this president is driving relentlessly toward an agenda to make America great again.
But Democrats are vowing a fight over that and the president's tax reform bill.
If you aim tax breaks at the middle class, we're fine with it. If you aim them at the very wealthiest who are doing very well so far, God bless them, that's not going to work.
No surprise to the president, who tweeted the Democrats have become the party of obstruction. The White House says its tax plan will spur economic growth, but could temporarily increase the deficit. This week, Congress needs to get a long-term $1 trillion spending bill passed or face a partial government shutdown by next weekend. In Washington, Jennifer Johnson, NBC 29 HD News.
Thank you, Jennifer. A new poll from the University of Virginia's Center for Politics shows Trump voters are sticking with the president. 93% approve of the president's job during his first 100 days in office. Now, when you break that down, 42% strongly approve, while 51% somewhat approve. 70% of Trump voters surveyed believe the country is headed in the right direction. Public Opinion Strategies conducted that poll for the Center for Politics, surveying 1,000 voters online and hosting 8 focus groups. An organization in Charlottesville is pushing for an end to gun violence in Virginia. The League of Women Voters held a gun safety seminar at City Space today. They met with the Gun Safety Task Force to talk about firearm legislation and violence prevention efforts all across the Commonwealth. The Gun Safety Task Force says Virginia is one of the most dangerous states when it comes to illegally exporting guns.
Virginia is one of the top 10 states of exporting crime guns to other states, and so this is important and will be important coming next year as well.
The League of Women Voters will host its next seminar on May 21st to talk about gun violence and the media's role in government. A church in Madison County is celebrating 300 years of worship. Hebron Lutheran Church is said to be the oldest Lutheran church still in continuous use in the United States. NBC 29's Megan Mathewson was at the church's celebration this morning and is here to share the congregation's story. Megan?
Hi, Matt. Well, more than 400 people came to celebrate the 300th anniversary. The church dates back to the 1700s and still welcomes worshipers today.
Hebron Lutheran Church is home to this organ that has been part of centuries of worship services.
It's been here 200 years. It's the only one of its kind that is still in its original location.
It was back in the early 1800s. The Tannenberg organ was brought down here by ox cart. I just can't imagine what that kind of trip would have been.
Germana settlers started the church back in the early 1700s.
This is one of the prettiest places in the county on a little high piece of land in the Hebron Valley.
It's easy to understand why the early Germans decided to stop here.
2017 marks the 300th birthday of the Hebron congregation. The church welcomed more than 400 people to Sunday's celebration.
The celebration today is a great example of having people come from all over the United States to be a part of this celebration today.
The history behind the walls makes this church a landmark in Madison County.
Even if they're not Lutheran, people all over the county know about Hebron and how old it is.
Parishioners who have moved away or have family memories of the church still call it home.
It's an opportunity to be a part of a church that's active today, but also just to kind of connect with your family roots and to know that you may be sitting in the pew where a great-great-grandmother sat years ago.
And this morning's worship service was followed by a birthday party for the congregation. In 2040, the church building itself will turn 300 as well. Live in the studio, Megan Mathewson, NBC 29 HD News at 6.
Thank you, Megan. A new magazine created in Charlottesville will help communicate bike laws to people who speak different languages. The University of Virginia group In With Collective and Community Bikes hosted that workshop today. The purpose was to translate bicycle parts and safety laws into multiple languages for Charlottesville's diverse community.
This is a great way that this zine can kind of act as a mediator between the people who are coming here for help with their bikes or to get new bikes, and for the people who work here to be able to communicate with each other.
The zine includes translations in Spanish, French, Swahili, and Arabic. They will be distributed at Community Bikes as part of Bike Month in May. Rescue crews search for survivors in a small Texas town turned to rubble by a tornado. We will show you storm chaser video of that twister. Plus, the game of foosball comes to life in Charlottesville. Find out how these teams are playing it forward.
And we're tracking a pretty vigorous cold front moving in tomorrow, folks. Looks like a pretty good chance for showers and storms during that evening commute. We'll take a closer look at that coming up, and we're going to be getting back to a prolonged period of more seasonable weather behind this front. Stick around for the 7-day.
And the Virginia men's tennis team plays for the ACC championship. We'll have the highlights later in sports.